went wrong for England?
It went wrong before we got out there. We was 5-1 to beat Turkey. I mean, everyone had us as outsiders, but for some reason, people are expecting us to walk the group, get through it easy, and that shows what people outside of England expected.
November 2014. England, Scotland and Wales were 3 of Europe's elite 24 nations who travelled to Montenegro, looking to take home the title of European six-a-side champions. But it wouldn't be football without some controversy, would it?
It didn't seem like they was listening.
I think Mark made the situation, bad for himself.
To me, he stabbed me in the back.
England were knocked out in 2013 in the quarter-finals by 4-time champions Romania. A fresh front 3 of Staines, Thomas and Dark were brought in to oversee proceedings in the England camp. UKMA chief scout Jamie Leggett was appointed as interim head coach for Scotland. He was tasked with building on the single point the side had achieved against Austria after finishing bottom of Group D the previous year. Wales were in search of an elusive first point in European mini-football. Welshman Barry John would lead a new-look Welsh team, with only captain Rory Gary making the squad from last year. England's campaign started strongly with a win against Turkey. However, after losing their final 2 games, Staines' side were relying on other results to get them through the group stage. Wales exited early after conceding late on in their first 2 matches and suffering a heavy defeat to Poland in their last. The side left with a first point in the competition. Scotland went into Group D as underdogs and looked to be living up to that status as they lost their first 2 games. However, after a dramatic late win against Israel, they went through to the knockout stage in a best third place position alongside neighbours England. England crashed out to host Montenegro in the second round of the competition, while Scotland's great form continued, knocking out previous 4th place Russia on penalties. Scotland's prize was a draw against Romania, and after taking them right to the wire, they were overcome by 3-2 in the quarter-final. After Scotland's great success in the competition, Leggett was appointed permanent head coach for Scotland. However, the UK Mini-Football Association agonised over the future of England's Mark Staines. He was eventually axed after failing to meet the expectations with the team in Montenegro, much to his disappointment.
That Mark had some blame to take.
I think we all have, really. I mean, obviously, as team director, I've got to, facilitate Mark and Gaz. I do think that Mark didn't use the subs enough. He may not have had as much expectations of the subs that we got, but I think he should have used them. There were players that played that were on the bench that didn't get on.
So do you think maybe he lost faith in some of the players?
I think so.
You mentioned about some of the players not being played that much. Obviously, David and Musa didn't really get that much time. You think there's a little bit of lack of faith? Maybe?
I think that's always the case. I mean, that might be down to maybe not seeing them as much in games, and that could be. It's always a hard one, isn't it? Like I think they're all good players. I mean, we know them probably better than the management team because we've obviously known them for a few years. So I don't know. You need to kind of keep everyone warm and keep everyone kind of together.
Yeah, I did lack faith in players because. You can't start putting, like I said, we had one striker. So if your striker gets injured, we was left with options of putting a defender. So we might bring, say for instance, David Tarawala and have to put him up front because we didn't have the players available. You play the Czech Republic, they go like for like every 2.5 minutes, they have 5 players that just come on. And it's like a replica. 5 go off, 5 come on. It's about, 70 substitutions or something they made in the game against us. The intensity of that game, and we're playing with 9 players.
Yeah, maybe they could have used some of the players a little bit more on rotation system, a little bit more. But then when they went out, or when they thought they was going out, on the documentary, they were saying that they believed that they should have just kept the side when they was doing the game plan against Spain, kept it the same. They should work as one.
The English mentality is you play your best side, you play, and you may make changes through injury, or maybe tactical. but not just for the sake of changes. But I think it proves right in mini football that it's the right scenario to have, because players are fresh going on physically and mentally. And I think with the Czech Republic game, we conceded 2 very, very late goals. And I think we were tired, we were switched off. And I just think if we would have had the emphasis on that change in players, then we wouldn't have got into that situation.
At the end of the day, if I get everyone to do what I want them to do and it goes wrong, I hold my hands up. I've asked you all to do it my way. I've wanted these training sessions on these dates, this and this. I've asked you to go out on the pitch and play like this. When you're being told, no, you can't have training session that date, no, you're going to have to wait 6 weeks for the training session, and then certain people can't make that training session, what do? You know what I mean? You can't get people to play how you want them to play.
At the end of the day, it needs to be down to the manager. Whether or not the players lost a bit of respect for Mark, I mean, I don't know. You know, I always say you gain respect by winning, you know, and getting results.
There's a little bit of talk about the fact that maybe Mark didn't have the players on board. Would you agree with that?
How do you mean by that?
Tactically, he knew what he wanted, but he maybe didn't get that from the players.
I think it was hard. I think in the last game, I think we needed a draw or something, and we maybe went a bit too defensive, where we could have maybe gone a bit more, and maybe a few of the boys didn't kind of maybe bring that to what they could do, and they were maybe playing ways that they weren't planning to play, and that could have caused a bit of confusion in the team.
Maybe it was the part of it was down to what they were being told or how it was coming across to him, but I did take them all to one side, tried to have a bit of man management, tried to explain in detail. They all told me they understood perfectly what they wanted of me. I can't do any more than that. There's only so much as a manager you can do. Once they go across that white line, you can't start. It's not PlayStation, you know what I mean? I can't start controlling them.
I think we took 10 players to Montenegro, where the Scots I think took 14, 15, and their camp was more unified than us, where we had smaller players. But we had a smaller squad, but our squad wasn't rotated enough like the Scots was.
They say you're only as good as your last result. England had disappointed. There appeared to be much unrest in the camp. Scotland, on the other hand, were flying, the euphoria continuing for Leggett's men.
Yeah, it was good to see. It was great to see. I sat down with Jamie a few times during some of, not the Scotland games, other games that we watched, the other teams and everything and that. And I think they had a great spirit. I think they thought, obviously, maybe whether England felt maybe there was a bit more pressure on them to do well after, obviously, you know, Greece and Moldova, and there wasn't much pressure on the Scottish boys who, you know, have come together as sort of two groups, as such as five-a-side groups and teams. So they felt more relaxed as a team. They were outplayed, I thought, at times, but they got the results that they needed to, because obviously I think they had a fighting spirit as well, that, you know, they didn't stop till that final whistle.
Yeah, we had a little bit of luck throughout the tournament, but you need that in the mini Euros and in any tournament like today as well. You need a bit of luck, but we set up well. We spoke about our positives and negatives after each game. There was a lot of harmony. As I said, they were two sides come to one, and after the tournament, we all agreed we come as one big family.
And I'm not knocking them, but was Scotland that good? They got beat off Montenegro in the opening game. They got annihilated off Moldova in the second game. They beat a very, very poor Israel team, probably the worst team, well, one of the top three worst teams in the tournament in the last game, and they did that with 4 seconds to go after making hard work. They beat Russia on penalties, fair play to him, and it looked good because they give Romania the game.
In my opinion, I just think they're very much kind of a team. They all kind of got on. I like the fact that all their families kind of came as well. It was more of it seemed just more of a kind of a collective kind of, rather than just a few individuals that wanted to kind of do their own thing. And as you can see in Scotland, I mean, I know the boy got the top goal scorer, but you can see when they celebrate, they're all kind of together. The families are all behind them. It's very much kind of, you can tell it's very much a unit.
You could say, I mean, right or wrong, that technically England players were better than Scotland, but that all goes out the window if you don't have a bit of pride and passion. You know, and their team ethic was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it was joy to watch.
Me and the lads was down at the fence cheering them on. When they beat Russia, I was the first person in the change room after the game. I ran down, I was the first person to congratulate them all, and I told Joe Andrews should be the player of the tournament. Scotland give team talks. Let's effing knock the English out of the tournament. When Wales give the team talk, it was Scotland have locked the door on England, now let's padlock the effing thing shut. And it's England that aren't supporting them, apparently.
We knew that the win would get us through, so we had to make sure they were up for their last game. 3 points was enough. The Scottish boys had previously won and they were through, so they sort of like slammed the door on England's chances of getting through. I told my boys, let's lock the door and throw away the f***ing key and make sure the England boys can't get through. And they started that game, right up for it. Unfortunately, the result didn't go our way. We were 3-0 down at half time, but second half performance, the boys come back and I was proud of the performance second half, so all good. The most technical team out of all the home nation has to be the English boys, but I've said on many occasions, Wales, Scotland just seem to have a bit more fight in them. I think if the English boys had that, they would have gone a lot longer in the tournament.
There was a unity about Wales and Scotland. England, on the other hand, was showing cracks. The passionate Leggett was the driving force behind his squad. It appeared to be a case of brave heart versus no heart.
I think it's hard really, because I didn't really see Jamie obviously actually talk to the Scotland boys and how he was arranging his team and stuff like that. I think Mark was great. Mark was pretty thorough of what he wanted.
I mean, if I look at Jamie, I think Jamie gets the best out of his players from what I've seen. He's very passionate. He tends to come down to a player's level. I mean, because he plays himself still, and plays for a good side. So he understands players, and I do believe he gets the best out of them. Whereas Mark, I think, he expects them to do it. Where I think you should give maybe a bit more encouragement. And I think Jamie's man managing is probably better than what Mark's was.
Where do you think Mark went wrong?
To be fair, I don't really want to comment on Mark because he's not in charge no more. So I don't really know what went on behind the scenes. I was concentrating a lot on obviously Scotland out there. I didn't really know what went on behind the scenes. Obviously, I've seen the documentary from the Ireland perspective and their documentary, and there was some comments on there from Mark and that it didn't seem like they was listening. With Paul and Gary, they're very experienced guys. They know the game. They know what to do. They know etc. Mark did as well, but it's if they can get the players on board, what are going to listen, going to take their tactics on, going to take their progression on, and how they want to play. As I say, if they listen and they work hard for each other, they go very far.
Well, you can ask Paul Dart what the players said about Jamie in the lift in Montenegro. Everyone said they wish he weren't manager and they don't want to play for him. So read into that what you will. So that.
What do you think that was?
Because no one wanted to listen to him. He's not talking sense to him. He basically just wants to shout around which players he knows and this, that and the other. It's the players that go on the pitch and do it. Like I said, the Ian Andersons and the Joe Andrews, they're good players. They don't need Jamie to go and tell them.
While Scotland's team management was up for debate, there seemed to be a breakdown in communication in the England camp. Captain Ben Long appeared to be a bystander, while Staines turned to ex-Arsenal midfielder Paolo Venazza for guidance.
We noticed that Mark tends to talk to Paolo quite a lot after the games. Do you think maybe that should have come through you rather than...
I think it's always difficult with relations in the team. I think I don't know if he kind of knew Paolo before. I think there's always going to be some sort of element of kind of gravitating towards one player.
Paolo obviously used to be at Arsenal, so obviously he's more obviously apt to play in the game and a bit more knowledge regarding footballing wise than some of the other players that they have in that. So we chatted to Paolo. Obviously Mark obviously did as well. Maybe he was just thinking about what players where we could go, helping Mark a little bit, because obviously Paolo's played at that high level than what Mark has.
Again, I don't think Mark had faith in Ben. Obviously last year Ben was announced skipper. I don't think Mark had much input in that. It was based on Ben's good performances from last year in Greece. So I mean that's fine. So maybe Mark might have had a different choice in skipper. It might have been Paolo. So but from my point, my view is that he should have stuck with Ben and gone through Ben, and then maybe that'd be a bit more respect from that way.
Yeah, you think that maybe could be how he could have won over the players' respect as opposed to...
Yes, I do believe that. I mean, the players might have seen what Mark was doing and didn't agree with it, and they thought, well, if he can do that, so can we. You know, I think there's a bit of respect both ways.
When I spoke to Ben, he was injured for the first game. He played a little bit, and when I spoke to him about other games, he wasn't interested. He said he earns his livelihood playing semi-pro football and playing in the conference or wherever, and that's what he wants to save himself and not get injured. So after that, I just didn't play Ben. A few of the players was not happy about that attitude when he's supposed to be the squad captain, but like I said, that was forced upon me. He would have never been the squad captain, no disrespect to Ben, but I would have had someone like Paolo, like Scotty Cousins in there as a captain, who the people like look up to and know they will give their all and they'll fight for everything. Spoke to Paolo, who's very knowledgeable, and a lot of things I was asking him is, look, is this not coming across clear enough what I'm asking? Am I saying it all wrong? You know, am I asking too much of the players? And the answers I got back from people like Paolo, Scotty and senior players, no, it's easy to understand what you're asking us.
Obviously, I've managed at 11-a-side, and you know, you may confide in one of your senior players because they can be your lieutenant in the players. They can be your buffer. You know, if maybe Mark didn't have the confidence to speak to the players about things, or maybe he was like trying to get information. He might have known there was a bit of unrest and trying to get information from other players for that. Now, if that was me, my buffer would be the skipper. You know, and I would use my skipper to be my buffer between my players. You know, so if there's any issues, I could go through my skipper, who would then sort of like talk to the players about things.
It was clear in the England camp that there were mixed messages between the staff and players. England needed a point from their final group game to qualify, a feat which they had achieved in 2013, against a Spanish side that has already qualified. The sides played a 0-0 draw in the first half. Everything seemed to be going to plan. The second was a different story.
For the first time since managing football team, probably even playing as well, I've never been that speechless. I just didn't know what to do. To me, it was simple. We needed a draw to get through the last 16. They're, like I said, Spain had no interest in crossing the halfway line. We didn't need to force it either. It was easy. We was already in the last 16. It was just no need to force anything. They're used to beating teams 25-0 at five-a-side. They're not used to wanting to play out for the 0-0 draw that's effective and will win you things.
And 0-0, Spain didn't want to come through. We didn't need to. It was a point eaten that, and even we spoke to some of the Spanish people after who spoke a little bit of English, and they couldn't understand why all of a sudden we were trying to press and look for a goal. You know, said they were quite happy with, you know, the point 0-0. So
I don't think we were aggressive enough and more direct enough. And the longer the game went, the Spanish got really comfortable, and I think they realised that this game was there for the taking, and they took that, and obviously they beat us quite substantially.
So the Spanish game was working, and then of some strange idea, you know, some of them were sticking to it, some of them weren't, which is that was the most disappointing to me, where some of them weren't taking that information on board, where some of them were. But if only half are and half aren't, then there is going to be a little bit confusing on the pitch.
We're here to get results. Do you think Germany, Czech Republic, Romania would go, let's beat this team 10-0, let's go all out attack? No, they'll get a 1-0 and that's it, you don't see the ball again. And Spain had no interest in crossing the halfway line. So why force it? We was through. And for 20 minutes that worked well. The second half, a couple of the players who had that attitude of let's go for the win, tried to be too clever, and we came unstuck.
Staines appeared to have lost the dressing room. Following England's exit from the competition, the decision was taken by the UKMA to relieve Mark from his post as England head coach.
And I was told, in all due respect, no one gives a toss basically about Scotland or Wales. It's England what we have to seem to be proactive, and you're going to have to go. Spoke to Gary and told him the situation. Gary wasn't happy. He told me I should be telling him this and phone him back and we're going to get a solicitor's letter and this. And it turns out all along that whilst I was on holiday, Gary met Paul Dark at the airport, who's a Southampton fan, picked him up from Manchester Airport, paid for him to go to the Manchester United game against Southampton, took him round, had lunch and stuff afterwards, went around, basically just behind my back.
Oh, Mark's still, a good friend. I like Mark a lot. I've known him for years. I felt personally, maybe Mark should, still be here. Maybe, as it was both our first experiences of trying to obviously do what we were trying to do, and it was a learning curve, the first one.
When obviously Mark was let go, I did make a recommendation to UKMA that we both keep Mark and Gary on, because I felt with that experience from the first year and the mistakes they made, we could rectify that for this year. And that's as a whole management team. I think we will be better. Obviously, when UKMA spoke to Mark, he came up with other suggestions, bringing in other coaches, other players that UKMA have already told him that we weren't interested. And obviously, I do believe that it was a case of Mark, being in a position where UKMA couldn't take him forward.
When I went for the England job, I thought it'd be good to take Gaz with me, get the experience. He likes small-sided football and he can work with the lads. And I thought it was going okay. It appears now that he was being a bit sneaky behind my back. I've heard a few things that's happened. And Gaz was telling me the things that I should say to the UKMA, and I should be telling him this and telling him that, and we're not putting up with this. We're going to see a solicitor. And the next thing, Gaz is still in charge and working with him. So to me, he stabbed me in the back. And in my eyes, I can hold my head up high. I've been loyal all the way through. I did everything they asked. I flew back off a family holiday at my own cost. I left my girlfriend and kid on holiday, and then I had to fly back out there. I missed my son's birthday. I missed my girlfriend's birthday. It's cost me thousands in unpaid holidays from work to be out there. I did everything that was asked of me, and I can hold my head up high. I'm not sure anyone else can.
Like any great battle, you pick yourself up, repair what is broken, and learn from your mistakes. England appointed team director Paul Dark as interim head coach, following Staines' departure. He will be looking to build on a poor England performance in Montenegro and answer England's critics in the 2015 competition.
We're confident. I will say it's a different format this year, so only the top two countries go through from the group, so we've got to make sure that we hit the ground running on our groups.
It's looking a lot more organised, and we're focusing on how to kind of get out of those compact areas. I think last year we were kind of, it was coming back to the keeper a lot, and we were kind of just knocking it forward. We're now kind of going into the preparation of how to kind of get out those tight spaces and the movement and making the later runs to kind of drag someone else out for someone else.
Scotland's Jamie Leggett will have his eyes set on an old foe, Romania, as they take on the five-time champions in Group B. His Scotland side will be looking to turn the tables after their quarter-final exit to Romania last year.
I've spoken to the lads, speak to them again today. I'm up for it, they're buzzing about it. We've got nothing to fear. Romania have everything to lose. I'm very confident we can go out there and perform like we did last time.
Barry John's Wales side will also be looking to better their campaign after impressing in the Home Nations competition in June this year, where they took home the trophy. They will take on previous semi-finalist Germany, amongst others in Group F in Croatia.
It's a tough draw, but to win any tournament you've got to play the best teams. Getting out the group is going to be very tough. Germany are a good side. I was very impressed with Kazakhstan and Montenegro, so we're going to have to play to their intensity. And as long as the boys put the hard work in, we've got every chance of getting out the group. We're not going there saying, yeah, we're going to get out. We are from a third pot team. But as long as we give 100%, the boys will be in with a chance.
With preparations underway in Vassar, Dark, Leggett and John go into the competition with their standards set. Who will come out on top?
No, I'd like to wish the lads all the best. Like I said, to me, they give me it all. I have a good relationship with all the lads, and I wish them lads all the best, and good luck to them for the tournament.